It's so hard when your lighting isn't right. Anyway, how y'all doing? I am back here this morning fumbling around with my lighting and um my sketchbook placement. I am not having that great of a morning. And one of the things that I like to do when it's just hard start in the morning is to start with something really easy. Um, like drinking my coffee. Um, I'm gonna do some color experiments. That has been something that I've been working on. Um, the other thing that I want to, and of course, this has a low battery. Hold on one second, y'all. It's gonna make it hard to reach. Okay, so a few things that I did over the weekend that I can share with y'all, and y'all probably just gonna see the meaty part of my arm throughout this, but it's fine. Um, I wanted to share with y'all some of the color experiments that I've been doing. And then I'll tell you what this blue dot is shortly. But um, let's see. My plan is to do a video where I finish this spread. And this is me like starting to share with you all more about folk art and how I incorporate like folk symbols and motifs and things like that into my art. So I'll share in another video about this, but I was doing a lot of color experiments over the weekend, and not only just color experiments, but also playing around with like a different kind of landscape, like what I prefer to draw trees as opposed to landscapes. I'm more of a tree person. My name is Sequoia. So, that trees are my jam. Landscapes, uh, this is just me kind of playing around with this, right? But I prefer to definitely just draw trees. And so I have been like looking at which colors I really like, um, you know, which one of my watercolors I prefer, how to incorporate watercolor and gouache together. So this is what I've kind of been going over, doing over the weekend. I've also been like continuing to work through my dream art exhibition. Um, I'm sorry, I was just looking at this person in the chat. People are so strange. It's Monday morning. I really hope that y'all can have some coffee too. I hope you can start your morning off in a way that is supportive for you, as opposed to starting off by dropping in my live in the chat and being weird. Um, I hope that you can have a better start to your day. Um, So in addition to like playing around with these colors, also I'm always working through composition, how to make a page more visually interesting, right? And so in me kind of doing that, I want to keep playing around with color experiments. And I was trying to figure out a way to like start, like how do I want to start this session. And one of the painting techniques that actually worked really, really well for some of the sweet potatoes that I was drawing a few pages back, um, was to wet the page and then drop in my acrylic wash like watercolor. So I have been working more with like an analogous color palette, so colors that sit next to each other, on the color wheel as opposed to like complementary colors. Um so that's where I'm going to start. I'm going to start with violet, red violet, and then blue violet in the Holbein acrylic wash. And this random little blue circle on my page that I'm definitely gonna use this page. This is Molotov Graphics Art Masking Liquid Pump Marker. And so I have been wanted to experiment with this, and so just randomly put this on here to see um what this is gonna do. So it's not dry yet. So we'll see how it goes, and then I'll probably do a whole separate video once I really like have time to focus on that. The other thing that I want to share with y'all is just some of the art and culture articles that I read over the weekend and like some reflections from that. And then we'll see what the time is like. Because I'd also like to update y'all on the Dream Art exhibition, and then the next exhibition that I'm working on. Hi. Okay. So there are two things that I've been doing pretty regularly in my um let's see. Start over here. In my current creative practice, and it's called the discovery spiral, where it's not just about like following the trails of inspiration related to color, but when you are a mixed media artist, you also not only need to see like how certain colors interact with each other, but also what materials, you know, lay on top of each other well. Um, and that takes you kind of exploring and experimenting with those particular materials. And so, in addition to building a color palette, you're also building a mixed media palette as well, right? So that is what I should have started with red violet, but that's okay. So this discovery spiral is where you start with one idea, right? Just dropping water on different variations of, you know, how much water you put on your paper and kind of seeing where that takes you, right? And that's really important for building your mixed media palette so that you know not only like not only how your materials interact with each other, but also I feel like it's very helpful to have a reference. So, like, if I, and maybe this is a way for me to think about the one of the challenges that I've been mentioning throughout my live streams that I have when I sit down to start, create, finish a piece. Um, I'll have like a color palette, I'll have some thumbnails all together. Um, and I sit down and I freeze. It's like I don't know what to do next, you know? Um, and I think having like different color experiments and like mixed media palette experiments is helpful so that like if I get into that moment again where I sit down and I don't know what to do next, you know, maybe opening up like this page in my sketchbook will be helpful because it can give me an idea about what, you know, what I could do next. Um And that could be like a texture suggestion. It could be a color suggestion, but it could be, again, like a color and a texture suggestion combo, right? And me having like these options where I work through how certain mixed media interact with each other, I think that's helpful. You know, I think that having it set up that way also shifts this perspective. I was watching a few videos, art videos over the weekend, like I usually do. And one of the kind of main critiques or criticisms, you know, that I see a lot, or not, I can't say a lot, but that I see quite a bit. Let's see, I did wet, so let's do a dry one. Um, is that, you know, many of the sketchbook tour videos that you see are from folks who have very like curated sketchbooks and it doesn't look realistic. You know, it looks very manicured, you know, very final portrait kind of outcomes. And I agree with that. I think the other thing, you know, too, related to that critique, is that most folks who say that, you know, are talking about sketchbooks where there are thumbnails, where you can see folks like working through their ideas and how they do that. You know, I will push those folks with that critique and also say, like, okay, and so where where are your examples where you are working through your materials as well or your colors, you know? That's a part of the creative process too. Where are the newsprint or drawing paper examples, sketches, live drawings, where you're practicing, a certain line technique, going through different exercises. And so, one isn't better than the other. I'm just talking through like some of the critiques that I see and how I'm thinking about that as it relates to my channel, and like what I come on here and talk to y'all about, what I show you all related to my creative practice. And this is also based on, again, a little bit of artist research, seeing what's helpful for other artists, right? Like, what are some of the things that I see folks mentioning in videos or in the comment section that definitely resonates with me? And then how do I think about that, reflect on that related to my approach, right? With my channel, my business, my art business, right? The other the other critique that I see, that I saw this weekend, but that I also see quite a lot too, is and I did a video on this over the weekend. I've seen folks say like they really enjoy demo videos, right? Like process videos, but folks also like to hear decision making, like why they like to hear why artists chose the colors that they chose, or why they took the next step that they took related to layering, right? So I think that that is something very interesting as well. So just even in me kind of working through like this, going back and forth between like dry and wet techniques, one of the things that I see with just even this first layer of paint is I really like the wet on wet with this gouache. It comes out very soft, still you can see the color, but it's a very soft version of these, punchy colors. I also really, really like dry brush technique as well. So yeah, those are the two kind of challenges that I saw in the comment sections or being discussed in the videos, the art videos that I watched over the weekend, that artists want to see, more, to hear more videos that talk through like decision making along with the demonstration. Um, but then also this piece about like sketchbooks, like looking at folks' sketchbook tours and seeing these very like manicured, finished, final products, as opposed to sketchbooks where you're, like working through ideas, where there's thumbnails, where it's not like all of this color, right? And then my kind of extension of that is exercises like this, right? Where the sketchbook tours where you can see the different exercises that folks go through to have, like, for me, as an example, right? This is more of like it's color experimentation, but it's also me building on a mixed media color palette, right? A mixed media palette. Again, me going through these wet and dry kind of variations, wet and dry, and then also like dry brush techniques. I see right off the bat, that I prefer the wet on wet colors, and that's these ones that are a little bit softer, a little bit muted, right? I really like that. One of the reasons that I like that is I have y'all seen pan pastels, like kind of in storybook images, more like children's books. But you can see it also on like, I was thinking of, oh my gosh, what's the name of this? The New Yorker, like those kind of magazines when they have those images that have these very soft, very delicate, almost misty kind of material, that is pan pastel. And those are actually quite expensive. They're quite expensive, and there's a learning curve to figuring out pan pastels, right? But I think, okay, so that's that, right? They're expensive. There's a learning critique. I love the way pan pastels look. And this wet on wet technique is very reminiscent of what a pan pastel like background or effect will look like. So this makes me happy that I know that I can achieve a pan pastel kind of look with my gouache paint, my acrylic gouache paint, if I do the wet on wet technique with it. So I really like that. That's good to know. Okay. Now I want to see, let's look at violet. Now I'm gonna look at violet for a minute. I'm gonna have a cobalt violet in here, and oh, I want to do cobalt violet, some lemon yellow, a few different ways, and see what happens. So I'm just wetting. Let's do saffron yellow too. I'm just wetting these colors in the palette. So I wet lemon yellow, saffron yellow, cobalt violet. I could wet old mauve, but I'll see if we do that one. Um, let's see. Okay. So let's do, okay. A few videos back, I had mentioned this dream art exhibition that I've been working on. Um, well, that I had gotten accepted in the Dream Art exhibition, and the conference is this weekend. And I'm still putting together my social media content just to promote, that I got in and that this exhibition is going to be happening over the weekend. Um, and so, one of the things that I also have been working through on the channel is I've been reworking the submission. I really love the theme that I chose for it, and I want to keep building on it. And so, I've been slowly um, continuing to work through this piece, and it's called Elephants on the Moon, Minnie Evans series, and it's about inner child work. It's about imagination. Um, it's about Minnie Evans, a folk artist that was based here in North Carolina. Um, and I really, yeah, just enjoy like the what I'm asking folks to reflect on and think about from that piece. And so some of these colors and color experiments will be reflected in the rework of that particular piece. Um, I really enjoy talking about artist research and doing artist research and how that connects to storytelling and building, you know, building your story around people, places, and things that impact you and reflect, who you are. Um, One of the things that I was writing about and reflecting on over the weekend was, you know, um, when you are an artist who thinks about like art for social change or political art, right? Like how did you build your knowing about what social issues, what local issues you wanted to reflect in your art, right? And taking my skills as an organizer, as a community organizer, as well as a professor related to research, and doing these things myself. I'm like, I would love to teach artists how to build their artist research toolbox, right? Like how do you get involved and get how does your art become influenced by what's going on in your community? Do you just, read an article and an article meaning like a news article? Do you read about something that's been going on in your community and then you just start making art about it? I think that's one way, you know. I think that there are other ways to Be intentional about creating art about your community. Um, I can give an example. Um, so, as an example, Minnie Evans is someone, that I clearly don't know. Um, but her work spoke to me. And what I did was organized a little artist date for myself. And this took a little bit of, pre work. That wasn't too difficult. I just, and I'm here in North Carolina, I'm in Charlotte. And I just Googled, looked up where, what books were available on Minnie Evans here at the local library. Um, I reached out, sent an email to the archive about it, asked them what was the process to come to the library archive because it's separate from, at least here in Charlotte, it's separate from the regular branch. And they told me what that process was. I scheduled my artist date, going to the library archive, and went and photocopied quite a few pieces from Minnie Evans, read more about her from books that I can't access, that can only be accessed there in the archive. Um, the other thing that I did was also listen to the audio interviews of her. Um, Looking at Minnie Evans, reading up on her work is a part of a larger series for myself. So I moved to North Carolina like 2 years ago. And one of the ways that I wanted to be intentional about joining the community, being a part of, moving back to the South and specifically North Carolina, and I wanted to understand the landscape of North Carolina, but from an artist perspective. And so I started uh, with Romeo Bearden, and I read a book on Romeo Bearden and got to understand like his experience here in North Carolina, again through his perspective being an artist. And then I moved on to Minnie Evans. I found I'm not even sure how did I run across her information? Because it wasn't from a Romeo Bearden book or anything like that. Um, I think I was just looking up folk art, maybe. Or it's very possible that I saw, because maybe that's what it was. Maybe for Black History Month, there was a recent like broadcast done on Minnie Evans. And so maybe that's how it came across my news feed in YouTube. And so I'm like, oh, let me look this person up. Let me read more about this person, and got really intrigued by her story, and her art. And the thing that drew me to her art originally were the ways that folks um, identified her. They named her a folk artist. They said that she was like a spiritual artist, a visionary artist, that much of her pieces, many of her images came from visions that she had. She was a very spiritual woman. Um, And so that intrigued me. Um, and her pieces are so beautiful, very detailed, very intricate. She was very heavy into symmetry. So in her images, and very, very connected to like yoga practice, yoga balancing. Um, what you see on one side of the image is what you see on the other side, right? And so that again, that's a very yogic practice related to balance. If you are strengthening the left side, whatever you're doing on the left, whatever posture or movement you do on the left, you make sure you do it on the right. Um, okay, let's do some more of these. I really, 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 really prefer that on wet. Um, And so, with me having an interest in not only psychedelics and psychedelic art, but also very interested in like spirituality in art. Um, Much of her commentary in her interviews reminded me of just some of the older black women in my family. Again, very devout, very convicted, in their spiritual practices. And I found the way that she connected her spirituality and beliefs to her art practice, just given the time that she was alive and the limited access to resources that she had and what she was able to create. I found it very profound, very much like a testament to the spirit and resilience. And I appreciate having those reflections from an artist from North Carolina, a black folk artist, black woman folk artist from North Carolina, to be inspired by her art like that. And between now and this weekend, I really need to like um, share with y'all the images that I saved from the archive. So when at least in the Charlotte Library archive, you can't take the books out. When you go in, you can't have like certain items. I couldn't go in with anything. They had slips of paper for me to write on. The only thing that I did take that they encourage you to take is a USB drive. So I scanned the images from the books that are in the archive onto my USB. And so I have those images. And so I could do like a little artist presentation on her based on the images that I scanned from the archive. I was talking about artist research and storytelling and teaching artists how to get involved and learn about like what's going on in your community from a more intentional way. And that share on Minnie Evans is an example of that. Um, at some point, I will do a presentation on Romare Bearden and Minnie Evans. Because there's some interesting similar themes between the two of them related to spirituality and art. And I think that's interesting, and I think other people might think that's interesting too. Okay. So what I'm doing, I just put down two different yellows, and maybe the camera is picking the difference up. I'm gonna darken this up just a little bit. I'm just trying to see what these two different yellows look like with these purples. The darker one is called saffron yellow, and it's more has more of like a green hint to it. I also have a yellow ochre that might be interesting with this. I think I like the yellows better. I don't think I like this yellow ochre, but it could be a good mid-tone for something else. I have a napkin over here. I don't want these big ass drips. Let's see, let's try. really dark. Mm. Y'all know what else I got? This is why I like that muted, um, the soft kind of pan pastel-y look of these colors. Can still be very monochromatic. What? What is it? That's my emotional support doggy, Winnie. Those people can be outside, baby. They can be out there. You don't gotta tell them where to go. Okay, sorry, I had to let her out. Um, okay, so we got this. Win-win. Winnie Latrice. You cannot be out there barking at people now. Sorry, y'all. She the supervisor and the manager of outside, so okay. Okay. So that was the purple marker that I have. And I have a few other things that can potentially go nicely too, but just want to show y'all the color pencils. Let's see. Let's move this. Let's move this around. Okay. So this is violet gray from Ken Dash. This is rose gray from Holbein. Violet from Karen Dash. Ultramarine violet from Karen Dash. I really like this one. This is another violet, but from Holbein, and it is different. This one is darker than this one. This one is a little bit more purpley. This one is darker. And then I have an Aztec purple from the Darwin Chromaflow line. Chromaflows are actually very nice pencils, but they don't have a good range in the colors. But I love the colors that they have. Anyway. So these are the purples. And then y'all saw me use some Neo colors. Whoa. This is Periwinkle Blue. Okay. So those are the purples. I do think salmon goes really nice with this color palette. And again, like my base is always going to be analogous colors. It's going to be colors that sit next to each other on the color palette as opposed to like complementary. Let's see, we got plenty of yellow, but this is the yellow in the Neo color, and then I do like a good pop of pink. Now the other colors that we could look at with these red violet, violet, and blue violet. But like I said, today I was just focusing on the violets that I have. And I have a violet in gouache, and then I have a cobalt violet in the Kuretake Gansai Tambi piece. This is, but I think this blue denims would go better down here. Yeah. See, this goes nicely with that. Right. So we do like this too. And this is Blue Denim. Blue Denim 135 from Karen Dash. From Karen Dash. Let's see. I'm sorry, y'all. I always end up not with the whole thing in there. Okay. And then the other color that I love. I really like peach, or like this salmon color. Um, but the other pop of color that's nice is this opera pink by Holbein. Um, Y'all, there is a mixed media and layering technique event, a workshop that is going to be on July 1st in person. And I'm here, I'm in Charlotte. And I was so surprised to see a mixed media event, art event, and it's being facilitated by a Black artists. And I was like, oh, yes, I am definitely going to go to that. If y'all have been following my channel, you know that like I'll get on here and do live streams that are titled like regulating my nervous system and talk about, you know, my anxiety and how my art practice is helps me when I have high anxiety. So I have wicked social anxiety. And this is, I won't go into all of it, but it gets heightened at certain points, like when I'm triggered. I'm not always and haven't always been like this, but for the past 2 years, it got triggered. And so for the past 2 years, I've been working through like really wicked social anxiety. And so, like, which is one of the reasons why I have an emotional support animal. Um, One of the things that has been really hard for me to do is to go to events, especially like art stuff that I really want to do. So, like, I haven't been to any live drawing classes. You know, I love community theater. I haven't been to any local plays. You know, I love local, like just going to local theater, arts and culture stuff. Like, I love going to, you know, to go see music, to go see ballet, you know, locally. And I just haven't done any of those things. And it's because of my social anxiety. And I hate that for me. But I've been getting better. Um, the past few weeks, I've been doing pretty good with getting out and about. Um, and so, this event that's coming up on July 1st, I'm very excited about it. Mainly because, you know, like I said, it's being facilitated by a Black artist, and I rarely see like specifically mixed media and layering technique workshops. Whoa. Like the fact that I saw it, I'm like, yes, this is for me, and I'm going. And I reached out to them, and they told me, you know, that it's okay for Winnie to come. That's my emotional support animal. So I'm gonna bring her um, with me to this event. So I'm very excited and grateful that accessibility is, you know, being honored, especially with me having an emotional support animal. I really appreciate it. And for those like listening, she's she's a mini schnauzer. She's 11 pounds. And let's see. She's a mini schnauzer. She's 11 pounds and fits. I carry her in a carrying bag. And she's a good girl. And so I'm really excited, for that. Huh. There's something interesting about using this to do like maybe a night scene. That's interesting. Maybe this is a way for me to do things at night. That is one thing that I have definitely noticed about my art is that it's usually in the daytime, and we got to do some night scenes. So I really like this blue violet with these gray pencils. I do have some other colors, lighter colors. Well, let me see. Winnie, what are you barking at out there? We got a little blue going on top of here. And then this is a little white, Chinese white. Okay. This is helpful. This is helping me to see how to do nighttime. Okay. So we went through, and I got sidetracked clearly. We went through the violet. That was the one that I was really trying to work through this morning. The violet. Now, the one thing that I have not done with this, I did yellow, but I need to do, the plan is to come back and do pinks and greens over here. I need to do pinks and greens over here. Um, to see how they look with this violet purple. Um, and then I also do some overlays. So I hope you come back and let me know your thoughts about this journey that we're on, with our color experiments. Hopefully, this was inspiring in some way. Thank you for letting me share about my social anxiety and the colors that I enjoy. I'll see you all later.